2 bows is actually going to make this really hard for Brandon to fight through. Like, he's got the Guinevere, so he can just sack whatever gets bowed, but, oh boy. 6 mana. Like, Val's reaching to draw 2, discard 2 cards? Okay, he's just going to pay 5 damage. That makes a little bit more sense. And that will clear Brandon's board. He will get a Guinevere for the trouble. Or a Drake. Maybe he goes for a Drake. Hard pressed to imagine that, though, with 2 bows on the field and a Bear Magic Engrave. Yeah. It's actually looking like Paul's game to win. I want to say Brandon hasn't made any glaring misplays this game, but that turn 2. I still don't know what he was doing on that turn 2. Yeah, like, there's no way he had Gwyver. Oh no, he's played 1 Gwyver this game. Yeah, I think we went over that. I think he had to have had that Gwyver and just didn't do it. He just didn't do it. So yeah, there's the Guinevere that he searched out the Ruck Egg. But what does he have for follow-up? Probably not a lot, right? I mean, Paul can't interact with it this turn, so that Guinevere is at least going to draw him 2 cards. And then he won't have to discard because he can get back to Death Scythe and discard that, but... What else is Brandon? Brandon, like, has to play another card, and there's got to be a playable card in his hand. Even if you just hard cast an Atom Brawly, at least get the token out. Because he doesn't... I don't think he has a Space-Time Engrave. Yeah, there's no Space-Time Engrave. So, like, the Atom Brawly is hard-pressed to attack because of the double bow. But, you know, at least you know he's not killing your Guinevere. Or at least you have to force him to play something to kill your Guinevere. And then you gotta sack it, draw cards. It's all about forcing your opponent to have the cards. Okay, yeah, it looks like Brandon actually is just going to play that Guinevere and pass. What the hell is his hand? He's got to have another Seal of Wind and Light then. Like, he has to. His hand has to be like... Atom Brawly, Seal... something. Maybe another Atom Brawly. Not sure. Maybe a Drake. I don't know. But I can't imagine he has any Resonator in his hand that costs 2 or less. Five mana. Endless Net? No, wait, it's fucking Endless Net. Captain Hook. Okay. So that's gonna be the seal that Brandon has, right? Brandon, you got a seal? There's a seal in your hand, Brandon? No? Okay, yeah, he's just gonna get rid of 2 Rulers of Memorias, it seems. And he's still got 3 mana open, so he still has access to like a Bear Magic or a you know, Unseen Pressure. Nameless Mist even. Well, as I was saying, I think the Nameless Mists come out in this matchup. Maybe they don't. Maybe you try and play 1 turn 1 and hit that Ancient Barrier. I don't know, I'm not an expert in this matchup. I didn't play either of these decks during this format. Well, I played Fiethsing. I didn't play during the Vingolf 3 format. I mean, Nameless Mist still existed, but it was a different time. Lumia Hook was better. Before Vingolf came out. Arcade. So why didn't he play one of these cards last turn and get the token in case something came down to kill his Guinevere? I mean, I guess, like, if something's killing the Guinevere, you'd rather sack the Guinevere than whatever your token is. You playing Titania? Okay. See, now it makes a little more sense. Just figured he would have tried to establish a board last turn, but yeah, if you've got Titania... Wait, what was he holding all that mana for, then? Because he doesn't have Seal. Maybe he just drew the Rook Egg? No, because you still could have gone Guinevere, Regalia, tap the token, pay 5 mana for Titania. Maybe he just wanted to threaten Seal and his opponent called his bluff? That's a possibility. I have seen many a player get punished by like baiting the counterspell and their opponent's just like, fuck you, you don't have it, and they just jam it down. I've done that. We've all done that. 3 mana, it's gonna be a Bear Magic? I would assume a Bear Magic on the Titania. Oh no, he removed the Gwyber from the graveyard. What? There's Bear Magics in this grave. Like, you could go for the Death Scythe and, like, force him to exit. Like, all you would do is force him to get the Death Scythe back right then and there. Doesn't do anything. But there are Bear Magics in this graveyard. Questionable play by Paul. I don't know why you would go for the Gwyber. A lot of people don't really... I definitely have seen players, like, not put a lot of thought into what they are exiling when they go for their opponent's graveyard. But... Paul gonna go in with Captain Hook. Brandon's only got 2 mana, so he can't Bear Magic him, unless his last card in hand is Levitine. But even then, it would just get Bear Bowed back, so like it doesn't matter that he bears it. I'm saying like it wouldn't matter if Brandon like discarded Levitine and bared the Captain Hook because Paul would just respond by like bearing whatever the blocker is and then bowing it. What's he doing with 2 mana? Oh, he's playing a Shade, okay. So yeah, the attack just goes through. Brandon goes down to 30. And now the Guinevere is going to die, which is really rough for Brandon. I think he has 1 Guinevere left in deck. Yeah, he's only got 1 Gwen left. But I would imagine that's what he's going to search off of that Rook Egg when that Gwen dies. He still has mana to Bear Bow the Titania if it tries to attack him. Yeah, I think Paul's got game 2 in the bag, even through the Ancient Barrier. Good stuff, good stuff. Now we just have to sit here and wait for Brandon to accept his demise. It's gonna take a while. How are you guys doing? Enjoying this video? That's great. I can't hear you because this was recorded in the past. Why are you trying to talk to me? It's the past. You fool. You beautiful fool. Not sure what's being debated here. He played the Shade. Brandon shouldn't have any response to that. The unfortunate part, though, is we do have to sit here for the entire... Wait, what? Oh, this is probably before untap. He's gonna go after that, Is he Bear Shading the Titania? No! No! Why would you Bear Shade the Titania? You have bows out! You have bows! No! No, why are you going after Titania? Just kill the Guinevere! My head hurts. I think that's gotta just be forgetting about the bows, right? Because there's no... Like, I was talking earlier about how you have to kill the Gwyber before the Guinevere because it'll just kill you. But you had a way to kill the Titania otherwise, and Shade was your only way to kill Guinevere. Unless, like, you're now going... Unless this is, like, the next level play, where, like, he forces Brandon to sack off the Titania, and then space-times the Guinevere and the token before untap, so that Brandon can never sack off that Rook Egg. But that's not the case. Brandon just goes to untaps. La-di-da. Just living his life. Brandon gets down a Horn. Brandon could... I mean, he could pump the token and run into the Captain Hook because apparently Paul forgot he has bows on his side of the field. But I imagine that wouldn't work out for him very well. I'm just trying to think if Brandan's going to horn his graveyard or Paul's, because Paul's going to call his last stone next turn, which is going to be his last chance to get back that shade in his graveyard. But he also doesn't have any other remnant cards in his graveyard, so horning Paul's here wouldn't be great. And while Bremont has his own Guinevere's in grave, he does have both Bear Magics in grave, which I would imagine you would not want to draw again. And like you would shut off your Death Scythe for like a little bit. Like you would get it back, and then like the next time you discard it, like you're probably only going to have like one other card in grave. You're probably not putting actual cards in the graveyard anytime soon unless you have an Atom Brawling in hand. So he would turn off his own Death Scythe, but I would imagine that's not that impactful. He's probably just amazed that his Guinevere lived, because I am as well. But, you know, we all forget things. I'm not going to rag on him too hard about it, but I do like to point things out so that I know that you can all share in my confuselment. Confuselment? Now you're confused about my word choice. Brandan actually might win this game now, though. He was left with an unchecked Guinevere. Like, it's things like that that can lose you the game, like that quickly, right? Like, Paul was in a very commanding position of this game, and now I don't think he is, because he left an unchecked Guinevere go. And that's the whole reason I didn't want to play Fiethsing, is like, it's so easy for Guinevere to die, and you just saw right there, like, sometimes your opponent just, I mean, sometimes your opponent just doesn't kill it, but that's not something I'm going to count on going into a tournament. And like, if Guinevere died here, I'm pretty sure the game is just over for Paul. Alright, so he's going for 10, he's bowing the Alice Little Scout, which is then going to get sacked to the Guinevere. Paul hasn't called a stone yet, so I don't know if he is just waiting to see what his attack phase looks like before he goes for that shade back, or if he's planning on flipping his ruler this turn. Valentina actually doesn't have, like, a terrible backside. The big thing to note is that if he does flip, he will have access to 3 mana space-time anomalies, because Val 3 lets you pay 1 less for Water Darkness chance. I think that's how this works. Yeah, so because Ancient Barrier says pays 2 more to play and not counters unless they pay 2, I believe Val 3 will give him access to 3 mana space-time anomalies. And then she can also sack 2 of your own Resonators to either kill a guy or draw a card. And on top of just being a 10-10 by herself. And it wouldn't have been unreasonable to imagine Paul bringing her out that turn. Because he does have Brandan down to 2,000. He still has 2 bows up. Brandan doesn't have a blocker with over 400 defense. Okay, Hera's going to come out, and I would imagine it's going to go for the Gleipnir. Because if it goes for the Horn or the Levitine, Brandan can just sack it in response. But Gleipnir he can't. And is arguably the most relevant Regalia on his field right now. Like, shuffling anybody's graveyard at this point doesn't do a whole lot. It does, however, mean that Paul, once again, did not get back the Shade. He is now out of stones, so unless he gets Captain Hooked, he's not getting that Shade back anytime, ever. Is he targeting the Horn? No, don't target the Horn. You're not going to get a draw. You're forcing him to Horn, but that doesn't matter. Guinevere's in the graveyard. He would love to Horn. He might even Horn you. No! No, don't do this, Paul! Paul, target the Gleipnir! Paul! Is that our door? That's fair. Wait a minute. Okay, so yeah, Paul definitely targeted the Horn. Brandan floating him in to play a Sacred Beast this turn. Not going to happen, but... Okay, yeah, so Brandan... So the reason I wanted Paul to target the Gleipnir is because now that Brandan like sacks the Horn, shuffles on Graven, he loses his Bear Magics, but he also gets back access to like more Guinevere's, and Paul doesn't get a draw card because Hera has to kill the Regalia to draw a card. And like if you target Levitine, he's just gonna sack that off as well. Doesn't really matter to him much. Gleipnir's the only one that like is really relevant at this point because he can like force something to block something irrelevant. And then, like, punch through damage. Like, Paul should have this game anyway, but I very much wanted him to target the Gleipnir there and, like, get the draw. Brandan, 4 mana. Oh, Ancient Barrier Tama. Okay. Yeah, see, this is what, like, the Guinevere went unchecked by that Shade, and now Brandan is starting to run away with the game with it. He found a second Ancient Barrier, he has 5 cards in hand, one of them was a Death Sight. Like, Wyber came down for the first time in forever. He's gonna Gleipnir the Hera, it looks like. And, yeah, he's gonna attack it with the token. And the question is he going to pump it? Yeah. Okay, so that's gonna have to block. Does he pump it with Guinevere to force the bow? Looks like the answer is yes. So Brandan just trying to eat through those bow charges however he can. Trying to get it down to a point where both of them have 0 counters and he can get through with his Wyber finally. Maybe his hand is strong enough that he doesn't really, it doesn't really matter if this Guinevere's tapped, so he doesn't really need to. Okay, so yeah. Paul's going to bow it, try not to lose his Hera. So Brandan's not going to be able to sack anything with that Guinevere next turn, but he has an Apollo, he has 2 Apollos, and he has 3 Guineveres in deck. And at any point that he wants, he can just sack that Ruck Egg to Levitine and get another Guinevere into play. He might even do that right now. I would actually be a little surprised if he didn't. Because right now, Endless Night is prone to clear his board. And he wouldn't get to draw anything in response. Whereas if you, sack that Ruck Egg, play a Guinevere, you still get left with a Guinevere. You probably wouldn't tap it to like draw cards that turn, but like you would be left with something, and now he will be left with nothing, except like a Guinevere that he can play the next turn. But I guess it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, because the Guinevere wouldn't be like drawing cards until later anyway. Or he could tap sack it right there and save some damage, but. So now the big question for this turn is, does Paul bow through whatever Brandan blocks this Captain Hook and Hera with? So we're up to 5 mana Bear Magics, 6 mana Space Times. I'm almost certain Paul will flip this turn, if for nothing else, because there's no reason not to, really. And like it's just one more threat to get on board if you do end up pushing through with the bows. Although if he had gotten back and played his Shade, I don't remember how much mana he had left over last turn. But if he had gotten back and played his Shade and had it on the field right now, he'd actually be poised to win the game. By like, bowing through some blockers. Like bowing through the Hera blocker and the Captain Hook blocker. And like Bear Magicking the Wyber if, it blocks one of them. And then you attack with the Shade. And then you sack the Captain Hook and the Hera with Val 3's ability to kill whatever the last blocker is. And with only 2 stones, I actually don't think Brandan could beat that. Any Channy play is going to cost 5 mana. Yeah. I don't remember exactly how much mana Paul had last turn. There's some real life stuff going on in the background. But if he had enough to get back and play the Shade. Okay, so yeah, Endless Night is going to come out and clear his board. Why didn't he do that in response? Why did he bow? Yeah, Brandan going to Apollo back his Guinevere and his Wyber. Yeah, no, that, like... If Paul didn't bow, he'd actually be in a decent position to win this game. Because he's going to get through the 10 this turn. Why didn't he attack with Hera? Your opponent doesn't have anything with swiftness in his deck. You're at 36. Why didn't you attack with Hera? Regardless. And why didn't you flip Val 3? There's nothing I can imagine Brandan doing that would stop Paul from winning the game if he used his last 3 mana to flip Val 3. Because you'd be able to attack with the Val, and then just sack your Hera and Captain Hook to destroy whatever Brandan blocks with, regardless of what it is. Instead, he's now just going to exile a Ruck Egg from Brandan's graveyard with his 3 mana. Because he can't play any Chance because there's 2 Ancient Barriers on the field. Brandan's ruler is Astral. He's at 1,000. I don't know why he didn't attack with the Hera either. Attacking with the Hera is really relevant because then you have one more lethal attacker the next turn. But Brandan's just going to go Guinevere, Gwyber. Fails to get his token? Maybe he didn't attack with the Hera because he did that on Brandan's turn to shut off the token? That's all I can think of, is he didn't attack with Hera because Gwyber was still out and he wanted to Endless Night at the beginning of Brandan's turn to stop, like, Tama's or Alice's little scouts or whatever from coming down. But he still should have flipped. Now he's got Bow Bear. So the thing about if this is one of the things where it's the opposite of the space-time thing. If you bow first and then bear, there's nothing your opponent can do to save the Resonator. Because it'll turn into a 4/4 bear, and before anything else can go on the chase, damage checks, it's taken 400 damage, and it dies. But if you bear bow, there's a chance for outplay. Dark Purge. That's unexpected. He can still pump out a range for that, though, and he does have 6 mana Seal of Wind and Light. You have to tap them all, Brandan. It doesn't matter. And that's going to be unchaseable. Doesn't really matter. Actually, no, doesn't matter. I was going to say it doesn't matter because, you know, Paul's not going to play anything in response to that, but it does matter because now his Apollo's tapped, but it really doesn't matter because I don't think Paul can get any more removal this turn. And see, like, this, if he didn't wait for untaps, and he had attacked with the Hera last turn, Brandan would be at 5, and he could now attack with the Hera again, and then just bow whichever Guinevere blocks. Especially since Brandan had to tap out to do the seal play. And he's going to bow so that the Gwyber trades with the Captain Hook. And Brandan, of course, can't sack in response there because then he would lose the game to the Captain Hook coming in. Now he's going to attack with the Hera. That's just going to get blocked by a Guinevere. If he had flipped last turn, he'd also still have lethal because he could sack the Captain Hook and the Hera to kill one of the Guineveres and then attack and bow the last one instead of bowing the Gwyber there. But Brandan's not out of the woods yet. You playing a Charlotte? No, he's flipping. Okay. Now he's flipping. Now he's flipping. Kids these days. So Brandan gonna call his last stone. Only 3 cards in hand. Guinevere on the field, so he can gas back up. He played the Death Sight though, so either he drew a second one, or he's not planning on having that Guinevere draw a whole lot more cards. And just wants to play a card to get the token out. Second Death Sight, so the token comes down. 2 blockers, though. 2 blockers. Only 1 lethal attacker, actually. The Hera didn't go through. Yeah, Brandan, understanding that his opponent will probably have a removal spell in a 4-card hand with 10 mana, Gonna sack the token immediately, try to find something that's a little more resilient of a blocker than a 1/1 token. Because Paul could just like scorn him and get rid of that token. A third and fourth Ancient Barrier are gonna come down, so Paul's or everybody's chance now cost. Wait. Oh, it looks like he I think he Apollo'd the Guinevere and replayed it. So Paul now has to play, or everybody rather, has to play 8 more mana for their chance. So Paul actually can't cast anything that costs 2 or more mana, or more than 2 mana. He can still play 9 mana space times. Huh? Yeah, Val reduces the cost of Water Darkness chance by 1. But if he plays a Resonator here, he just wins, because he can attack with the Val and sack Hera and the other Resonator. But just going in with that, Brandon going to have to block that to not lose the game immediately. Oh, it looks like he does have a play. 10 mana space time. Paul did not read the backside of his Valentina. Alright, so I don't want to say I don't blame him, because you should read what your J-Ruler does. Even if it's a deck where you never plan on flipping, you have the capability to flip, and should read what your J-Ruler does. Because Valentina's backside is actually not bad. Like, it's definitely... It's no Mikage, but, like, it's not Vlad. Like, and you should know what Vlad's backside does. I flipped Vlad in the top 8 of a Grand Prix. I lost that game, but I did it. It's only because the play didn't work out. What I wanted to, I was trying to flip my Vlad with a Levitine to kill one of his Resonators and gain the life, and then attack my Vlad into something else to flip my Vlad back over immediately. This was back when, I think Astral Rulers were still a thing, so I think I would have had to sack my Levitine. But it didn't matter, I wasn't going to flip that Vlad again. But he, like, I played a Death Sight. Yeah, I think he, like, played a Death Sight the turn before I was going to do it. I was so upset. Or, like, he had out a Maribel to threaten my Levitine. I don't remember exactly, but... Alright, Brandon starting off with a very standard... Wait, why does Brandon have 5 cards in hand still? I think he is noticing that he has drawn an extra card. He's trying to figure out what to do about it. Looks like he put the Apollo on top of his deck, I guess? Called a Stone, played a Ruck Egg. I'm not sure what happened there. Well, I know what happened there. Brandon drew an extra card. I'm not sure how they resolved it, or if Brandon just, like, pushed an extra button or something. It's a lot easier to accidentally draw extra cards on Untapped than it is in real life. Maybe he just hit C1 too many times. His opponent seemed cool with it, and he just put it back and they kept going. But Ruck Egg, not a phenomenal start. Like, it's probably your best turn 1 play if you missed a Regalia, because you don't want Guinevere with no tokens on field, right? Not sure what Paul's thinking about here. Brandon gonna call Ruler's Memoria. It's gonna come in tapped. Yeah, Brandon just passed his turn. Playing a Guinevere there would have been questionable. Just because, like, your opponent is threatening, like, space-time and unseen pressure and all that shit. But ideally for Brandon, gonna throw down an Ancient Barrier next turn. Get that consistent turn 3 Ancient Barrier every turn of this match. Make it really hard for Paul to play the game. Paul plays Levitine. Did I know that? I don't remember if I knew that. How many fucking Regalia does this guy play? He doesn't play Ruler's Memoria. He plays Levitine. Why do you... Hold on. Hold on, no. No, you cannot tell me that this man does not know what the backside of Valentina does, but he plays Levitine. I refuse to accept that. Brandan gonna get his third stone and play Ancient Barrier, get a token for his troubles, and Paul on the back foot from the start again. Brandan managing to open Ancient Barrier all 3 games in a row. Pretty good, pretty good. That is like, I mean, so as we saw last game, Brandan decided into 4 copies of the card. He didn't open with a Regalia, so I would assume he's hard mulliganing for this Ancient Barrier. A pretty good game plan and one that is effective against this deck. Paul going to set a card. As we were saying before, likely a Prison. Hard pressed to imagine him playing anything else that goes in that chance standby area. You know, Raises, Melders, not too effective when you play other Resonators or not in tandem with each other. Looks like pass the turn to Brandan. I just realized that I can see whose turn it is right here. I've been like squinting to read the chat this entire time, like some kind of fool. No, face down. I thought I was gonna like let me peek at it, so that we could all know. I feel like the commentary has slowed down a lot for Game 3, but this has been a pretty slow start for both players. I feel like I've already talked about the matchup at length. Okay. I think that's the ball game. I think getting down 2 Ancient Barrier this early is just too much. Now, Paul is going to be able to shade this Guinevere, but Brandan can just Apollo it right back. He's already got 2 Ruler's Memoria on the field, so losing his 1 Regalia, not the end of the world. It's pretty statistically likely that he's going to hit a not Ruler's Memoria next turn. Yeah. Paul going to go for the play. Brandan going to pop it off, get it back to his hand. Everybody, like, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't want to, but I have to. Like, you have to shade the Guinevere there, and you have to Apollo it. Brandan more happy with the way things turned out than Paul is. But Paul should, I would imagine, just call a stone and get his shade back. Unless he oh. So Paul can't get shade back off that one. And this does leave open his other play, which is leave 4 mana open for his Prison. But Brandan, having the Guinevere in hand, hard pressed to imagine he needs to add Umbrella to drop a Gwyber. Or even multiple Gwyber. Once you get to, like, that's the scary thing about this deck, is like the later in the game you get, the less reliant they are on Adam Brawley. Like, they can just double Gwyber you without it. Adam Brawley is scary because it drops down like a turn 2 or turn 3 double Gwyber. Yeah, so like I said, doesn't need Adam Brawley, just plays Apollo, the Guinevere. He didn't play the Apollo before he called a stone. I hate this, man. This is who you voted as the 3rd best player in the United States. This guy. Look at this. Missed lethal game 1. I don't know what his turn 2 was last game. Now this man fucking draws Apollo, calls a stone, and then plays it. I wish it was a Ruler's Memoria. It's gonna be Paul's turn. This should actually be. I'm glad that like this is a much faster game because the commentary has really died. Like I've talked at length about the matchup. There's really not much to say when it's turn 5 and Brandan has 2 Gwybers and 2 Ancient Barriers out. Paul's playing colors without addition removal. Like, there's no counterplay to that. It doesn't matter how good of a player you are. You don't outplay that. Unless you open Nameless Mist. We haven't seen any Nameless Mists from Paul this match. And I said that, like, he might have sided them out. But with knowing that, like, there's 4 Ancient Barriers in your opponent's deck, you probably should have put them back in going into Game 3. Like, you know your opponent plays Ancient Barrier, but you don't know how many. Like, you probably keep it in going into Game 2 because you saw it Game 1, and, like, you are, even if you forgot about it, you are reminded it is a card very aggressively when it beats you. So, like, that's something that you have to, like, try and turn 1, get that out of their hand, right? Because you know that they're going to mulligan for it. So you want to Nameless Mist as early as possible, hit that out, be able to play the game. Unfortunately, like, Paul just hasn't really been able to find his footing this match. Brandan just turn 3 Ancient Barrier in all 3 games. Really not giving Paul any breathing room. But that's like, I think that's kind of cool Like from a design standpoint, where like you have this deck that doesn't play any chance, and then like has this card that allows it to compete with decks that do like hard control decks and stuff. Like you're gonna play this cool like stun card that says, okay, neither of us can play chance as effectively as we want to, and then you know, keep going from there. And something that I forgot to bring up earlier, but if you are wondering about Val 3's interaction with Ancient Barrier, the card doesn't add on like Val 3 checks the cost of the card she's playing, not how much mana you paid for it. It's kind of like I don't remember where it was relevant, but Severing Winds was a 4 mana card, even though you were playing it for 0 mana. It's the same thing with Gil. Like, I mean, well, Gil produces mana, so it's a little bit different. But like Eternal Tower says cancel all chance with cost 1 or less that are played. Like that doesn't negate Severing Winds just because you played it for 0. Valentina doesn't like get to -4 off of a space-time anomaly just because you paid 4 mana for it. Like it is still a 2 mana card. But it looks like Paul having a bit of fight in him. He is going to bare bow one of the Gwybers. Next turn, going to have the option to bare bow the other Gwyber. Brandan choosing not to Apollo it. Or did he? And then play another Apollo? Nope, it's in the grave. Along with Paul's hopes and dreams of winning this game. For real though, I don't imagine a non-stealth Val 3 winning off of a turn 3. Okay, yeah. Every time I talk about what Paul could do to win this game, Brandan throws down another Ancient Barrier. Paul, I'm sorry, I've cursed you. Every time I bring up your way back in, Brandan plays Ancient Barrier. With 3 Ancient Barrier down, why did Brandan not play that before he attacked? Your opponent has a bow out. He has exactly enough mana for Bear Magic without using his Energize. You have another Ancient Buried. You know he couldn't play Endless Night. He only had 6 mana. You made it cost 7. Now it costs 9. Even the pro players aren't immune to misplays. Brandan is making that very apparent to us right now. And I'm sure he's going to watch this video and go, oh my god, what an idiot I am. Or, oh my god, what an idiot Aaron is for not seeing this brilliant line of play that I had set up that revolved around letting my Gwyber get bare bowed before I played Ancient Barrier. But I doubt it. This is why I'm number 2, Brandan, and you're number 3. I see the plays. I see the Levitine lethals. I see the playing my card that makes his chance cost more before I enter combat. You know, the advanced plays. Alright, Brandan's gonna safely sing for 12 because his opponent's probably gonna bow shade it. But he can just Apollo it back and play it for 5 mana if he wants to. Whatever tickles his fancy. His opponent still can't play Endless Night next turn. Because he'll only have 8 mana available to him to play his 3 mana card, and he can't do it. Yeah, Paul recognizing that, like, he has to... Like, Apollo's a really rough card for control decks, because, like, especially situations like this where in combination with Ancient Barrier, like, you have to throw a lot of stuff at something just to get the Apollo out. Did Brandan just let it die? Is he just flipping? I didn't really think that you needed... So, like, I understand. You don't Apollo back the Gwyber. Because I think you're winning the game, like, this turn or next turn, because you're getting it for, like, 15 right now. But I think I'd still Apollo for the safety of it. Because, like, that Valentina does not... Or that Fiethsing does not need flying. What did Paul just do? Looks like he tapped a bow. Oh, he's energized. Oh, he's Black Moonbeaming! Yeah, now you feel bad, dumb as shit. I mean, like, there was no order where, like, the tokens got in for 5. But as I was saying, now, I bet Brandan feels like an idiot for not Apolloing that Gwyber. Maybe he thinks Guinevere is what he needs to win this game. But it's not. Like, you need that Gwyber to live. You have gone through all this trouble of making sure that it won't die to anything. And, like, sure he can bear bow it next turn, but, like, then you can flip. He'll be not quite tapped out. But, Brandon's suddenly in like a not great. I mean, like he's not in a bad spot, especially since Endless Night can't come out for 2 more turns because he used the Energize there. That prison's never flipping. 6-mana prison. Yeah, right. What year is it? Am I right? But this game is still looking. Let me get this straight. By no means is this looking good for Paul. But unfortunately, my dreams of Brandon just clocking him with 2 Guibers in 4 turns isn't working out. So I have to continue to commentate this very slow, grindy matchup that it's become. And that's one of the strengths of Fiethsing, is like it's a very aggressive, like Guiber combo-y, Adam Brawley deck that like dodges removal with these Apollos and shit. But it can play the long game too, and that's all thanks to Guinevere. Like old Alice's World, I mean, like, so pre-RR Alice's World could not play the long game. Like, you just didn't have it. Alice's World with Reflect could kind of play the long game because, like, you had Orb and you had, you know, Morgiana and all these cards that they draw. Like, every card in your deck said draw a card unless it was Guiber or Pumpkin Witch, basically. Like, you were too fast to deck for Guinevere. But because you were so fast, you couldn't really play the long game if something managed to slow you down to that point. Like, I think when Ryan and Zach Tufford played, Ryan was playing 5-color control, Zach was playing you know, RR Reflect World, and Zach won because he got in like 1 Adam Brawley attack on turn 3, and then the game went on for like another hour. And that's just because Ryan's deck had a really slow win condition, and Zach played like multiple seal in the main. But for the most part, like, if your opponent's applying any kind of pressure, you can't play the long game with RR Alice's World. Or not RR Alice's World, the old Alice's World. The one before Reflect. I realize now that my Ryan Zach point didn't make any sense because I was talking about how Alice's World can play the long game. But I'm also realizing that Zach proved that it can because it didn't die or take anything more than the 600 damage that Ryan had put out. Ryan also played 4 Moonshade. That could have had something to do with it. Is what it is. I realize now that that whole tangent was mostly meaningless. You get the idea. This deck can play the long game if you have Guinevere. If you don't have Guinevere, oh boy, no. This game's dumpster fire. Drake and Guiber coming down? Yeah, Drake and Guiber coming down. And that's really good because Paul still doesn't have access to Endless Night, so like he can bare bow one of those. I would have liked to see a get back Shade and play it on that last turn. Get this Guinevere off the field. Because like your opponent didn't have any dragons set up this turn. So there was no threat of him, like, you know, going in with something that you needed to save this 7 mana to Bear Magic. I don't know if Paul remembers you can get back Shade. Like, it's certainly something he has failed to take advantage of this game that I think actually could have ended up winning him the match if he did it a little more aggressively. Especially, like, when your chance costs this much mana, like, Shade, that's where, like, Shade shines. Like, Shade makes it so you don't lose to Ancient Barrier as hard. Like, you're not playing the stealth version, so you don't have the Melder access. So like Shade is your Resonator removal under Ancient Barrier, and Paul just not taking advantage of it this match. Brandon now has like a pretty decently sized army of tokens. I mean, it's still only 600 damage when you go in with all the tokens and Tama, but is Paul going to flip? The problem with Paul flipping... Yeah, but like... Okay, so like... What do you mean Bear Magic? So you can Bear Magic one of the dragons, but he's just going to block with a token. And like, you've made it so that if he blocks with one of the dragons, you can bow through it. But... he's just going to block with a token. And then, like, you can bow through the token, but Brandon's still only going to eat 2,200 damage. Got 4,000 life points. And he can, he can still just block with whichever dragon you didn't bear, and then, like, it just dies, but, like, then he can just... I mean, obviously, like, he's just gonna block with a token or a Ruck Egg. Probably a Ruck Egg. He can afford to eat this 22. Especially if it means your last bow charge. Wait, don't you just lose the game on the crackback? Wait, where does Drake go? Why does Drake die? You block with it? Why would you block with it? You win next turn. Why did you block with it? Fiethsing already got flipped. She immediately got Black Moonbeam. Why did he block? Hold on. I have to figure this out. Your opponent has 4 mana. Even if you play double shade, it goes up to 41. You don't win next turn. And what, you're scared of him pair bowling through another? No. What are you scared of, Brandon? Why did you block with a Gwyber? Or a dragon? A dragon? Why? Were you afraid of him playing shades afterwards? And killing another one of your dragons, or forcing the Apollo at end of turn, you know, something like that, get the dragon off the field. He goes up to 41, you can attack with the dragon, put him at 29, but then if he just bare bows through your next blocker... Well, no, because you would assume that he would... If you block with the token, then he has to bow to get through it. Are you then scared of him endless knighting you? The only reason I can see for Brandon to block with the Drake there is that he was afraid of his opponent playing like 1 or 2 shades after combat, bowing whatever he had blocked with that wasn't the Drake. So you bow whatever isn't Drake that he blocks with. Let's say a token. Token dies. You're at 18. You place 2 shades. You attack with your dragon. He like takes it. You attack with the dragon. He takes it. No, he's only got 7 mana. So, like, he can't Endless Night. Like, if Brandon's counting turns towards Endless Night, then theoretically his opponent would have been able to, like, Endless Night next turn. If he had called a stone last turn and the next turn. But he didn't. He flipped. He's attacking. He can only play 1 mana spells. So that doesn't even make sense. I can't fathom why Brandon blocked with the Drake. Your life is a resource, people. Use it effectively. You have 4,000 life, you can eat 2,200 damage against the control deck that has no extra burst. I promise. And only 7 stones. He would have to call a stone. Well, no, he could play a space-time right now. But if you don't block with the... So, like... He has space-time mana. But if the turn before you had blocked with a token and he bowed it, bows off the table. You block with a dragon, space-time doesn't kill it. Nothing kills it. Nothing for 7 mana kills it, and he can't call a stone and attack in the same turn, so... I think... I want to ask Brandon what he was thinking, because to me this just seems like a misplay. And a hard one. Like, maybe he's thinking, oh, you know, like, I'm not worried about anything because they can't get through the next dragon. Now they're only at 11. But no, because Val can attack the dragon now, and then bow through whatever you block with. Do you just have so many Guinevere's that you're not worried about it? That doesn't sound right. I mean, like, you can pump tokens and kill him next turn if he attacks the Gwyber anyway, but... Maybe he was just so secure in his advantage that the Drake didn't seem to matter to him. Rather safe than sorry, although... Like, the rather safe than sorry mentality only works out when there's something that would actually punish you for not playing the safe path. The thing is, there's no conceivable punish, at least in my mind, for just eating the 2,200 damage. Like, there's nothing he can do the next turn that pushes through one of your dragons. And, like, maybe that's why. Maybe he's like, I don't want to block with the dragon next turn, I'll just block with the dragon this turn. But you could have dug before untap for more dragons, hit him for 24, and if you found another one, just play it. Well, even if you find an Atom Brawly, play it. Well, not an Atom Brawly, that would die to space-time and bow. But as we saw in the last game, Paul doesn't know he can play a 7-mana space-time. And you don't want to, like, if your opponent makes a misplay in one game, you don't really want to, like, count on them making a misplay the next game. But you pretty reliably can if it involves them misreading a card. So, like, Paul does not properly know the ability of Val 2. Especially, like, specifically its interaction with Ancient Barrier. And he proved that to you last game. It's rather safe to assume that he didn't pick up on that between then and now. Because there's no reason that he would have. He didn't, like, reread Ancient Barrier. He didn't, like, reread Val 3. Maybe in voice comms he was like, oh, I actually only should have spent 9 mana on it. Or maybe even Bremont told him, he was like, it's actually only 9 mana at the end of game 2. That's why I don't talk to my opponents. I don't say shit during a match. I don't know. People have been like, so the chat is blowing up with like people spectating and then not spectating. Looks like a bunch of people have stopped spectating. Is this game over? Has the game ended and nobody told me? Am I just sitting here like a fool? I've been thinking this whole time. Sort of understandable. You know, it's an untimed Grand Prix. Your opponent's probably not going to call you on slow play. And you... I am definitely someone who takes a long time to lose a game. Because I'm like, no, that's me? Lose? Are you kidding me? There's a way out. So I don't disrespect Paul for doing the same thing. But in the end, doesn't find it. Match is over. Everybody go home. But that was it. That was Brandan Bremont versus Paul. Don't know his last name. You can check it on the bracket. Whoopsie. But yeah, that's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching, guys.